Breaking Loose Now, Freedom from Within. Written by Sophia Edlund and voiced by Jez Russell. The End. Drawing from our personal experiences. Without further ado, we can draw from our early personal experiences to help us understand the process we have described previously. Our early experiences are a replicate of the history of our species, the Homo sapiens. Right from the moment we graced this world, we are filled with the abundant love that is unconditional, even in our needy nature. The unconditional loving nature of the baby we were born needs to be understood implicitly. Love, as seen from the eyes of a baby, is neither compassion nor adoration. It is a form of communication that has nothing to do with our collective egos. This kind of love is often seen when we are really interested in a person, and not somewhere else in our heads. Love changes us because we are in tune with the person with whom we love. The opposite of this all-accepting love is being stereotypical, rigid and guarded. The ego is something that is insecure and will seek to protect itself through acts of self-justification and repression. Conversely, if we can sit down with somebody and not feel the need to be guarded, but instead really open up and engage in spontaneous communication, this is often accompanied by the feeling of warmth and acceptance. This is the feeling associated with love. This explains why we are close with and even feel love for family, close friends and sexual partners. We are free to be open with them because we can open up to them and let down our defences. This is what the new baby born into the world does. It accepts and loves unconditionally. When insecurities creep in and scars are inflicted on our ego, that's when the defence mechanism rises up and our shield protection is activated. The only time we will feel free enough to let our shields down is when we are with people who accept us unconditionally. Our first needs when we made our entrance into the world are to be fed, cleaned and cuddled, etc. We are unconditionally accepting of everything in our environment. Our baby cells will communicate openly and spontaneously. Some of our basic ways of communicating as babies is mainly by crying for us to be fed, bathed, cleaned, etc. As we grow a little older, our system of communication changes somewhat because we have more things we need to talk about. Imagine the shock we received when we realised as we got older that not everyone is interested in communicating openly and spontaneously with us, as we have been doing. Parents and other adults generally don't listen to us. True that they play with us and do relaxing things with us, but some of us found that parents are not really interested in what we have to say. When they do respond to us, it mostly doesn't make sense because we don't understand it. Literally, we have stumbled on a playground where nobody wants to play with us. Children are wired to believe that everything that happens is their fault. That is the way the mind of a child works, and we are not any different. This is why many traumas go in childhood and no one notices, and it goes ahead and mars the child for life. For every single bad thing that happened, the child will seek to take the blame on himself. Often you hear, "If I were a good girl, my parents wouldn't have divorced." As children, we learn the concept of self-blame. Self-blame will later cause deep scars and insecurity. Invariably, we would become involved in self-justification and even question our self-worth. Had our parents the foresight to tell us that it wasn't our fault, that they were very much to blame for all we see going wrong in the family? Had they told us they were insecure and egotistical, it would have been much easier for the child in us to understand and deal with. In time, we would have come to appreciate them for being open and sincere about their feelings. The only problem with our being as children was that something is wrong with us because things around us are falling apart before our eyes. For this reason, we would seek ways to prove, if only to ourselves, that we are wrong about whom we are. We want to prove that there is nothing really wrong with us. We became insecure in our thinking. Once insecurity steps in, we begin to act out. Our acting comes from questioning our self-worth. We begin to suspect that we are not really worth much in the grand scheme of things. Our insecurities are what we project to the outside world when we act out. To prove our self-worth, we do many silly things like shoplifting, writing graffiti on a wall, or even fighting in a war. We do all these things to prove to ourselves that we are worth more than what we project. This is the point at which the anger sets in. Through anger, we try to defend ourselves from the challenges we feel. At this point in our lives, parents would begin to do some damage control by teaching us right from wrong. These things constitute the blueprint which we would need to follow for success. Then comes the feeling that if we fail to live up to the expectations of our parents in following the blueprint already set out, then we would have failed woefully indeed. Our parents' blueprint would become tied with our feeling of self-worth. This is when the feeling of guilt sets in and we learn an all-new emotion. There are important facts that naturally lead us to a neurosis. The extent of our neurosis is dependent upon these combined forces. The first force was the amount of positive communication we encountered early in life. By this, I mean how much self-blame we felt growing up, our value system, and how it restricts us in the second force that contributes to our split nature. Let's say, for example, that we have pretty bad experiences that we are saddened and angry about, but then we are not restricted by our conscience. It means we will not repress our feelings in their entirety. We may go do some things to relieve tension like sex, weightlifting, and walking, but we still retain our capacity to love. On the other hand, if our value system places so much restrictions on us, like one who is born into a highly strict and religious home, relieving stress and energy through sex and partying would seem highly inappropriate.